Kyle, what's going on? How are you doing today?
Joey, how's it going, bro?
Good, good. So Kyle's a good friend of mine. I've worked with him in the past in several ventures. He's a brilliant mind, good friend, all-around great guy, and he has some great stories, particularly in e-commerce. So I wanted to just dive in and hear more about it.
Sure.
I figure let's talk about e-commerce. I know you had some wild success during COVID.
Yes.
And when you told me the numbers, it kind of blew me away. Just on here on your Twitter profile, I believe you said you scaled your own e-commerce brand from 0 to 27.6 million in 12 months.
Yeah. It was actually more than that gross. That was net revenue, but we had to refund a lot of stuff, which is part of the story, the very sad part of the story. But I'll kind of take you from the beginning to how that happened. I've been in e-commerce or the online marketing space for pretty much the last decade, either through owning online ventures like with you, with doing lead generation, or through owning supplement companies, and then through owning some dropshipping companies, and then finally with Family Gifts Co., which is still a brand that I own and a brand that I own equity in. And I had been doing a lot of dropshipping prior to that and trying to figure out really how to scale it. The big challenges with dropshipping for me are you're sourcing internationally and delivering internationally, so there's always going to be long lead times and long delivery times, and that causes upset customers. It doesn't build a loyal customer base. And then I found what's called print on demand. And print on demand is using USA vendors to print and then ship products in the US. So all the lead time issues that you have with dropshipping are not an issue. Pricing is higher, obviously, because it's US labor that's creating the products, but I will take a higher price for more customer loyalty and a better product. So I found dropshipping, print on demand in 2019, and October through December of 2019, we did $500,000 in revenue, having no experience in print on demand at all on my own store. So in that 3 months, we did $500,000 in revenue. And I looked back on it and I was like, wow, that was incredible. But then I looked at my P&L and I made like $5,000. And I was like, man, this is way too much work. I was working a lot for that money. And I was like, I need to find a product that's better, that I can scale, that has a higher average order value. And I saw some of our competitors were selling canvas prints, and they were selling them for around $80. And I thought that was underpriced in the market. So I came in and I found some designs that I really liked, and I put them on our website, sold them for $100, and they pretty much took off. And that was literally like January 15th call or something like that. And then we did something like $200,000 or $300,000 in January. And then another $400,000 or $500,000 in February for Valentine's Day. So, everything that we did in 2019, we already had done in the first 2 months and more of 2020. And then COVID happened, right? Which we all know. In March was a very bleak outlook for most brands, and we thought we were gonna have to shut the business down, and it was very scary. And luckily, as we all know the story, the exact opposite happened. It ended up being a huge boom for e-commerce, luckily. And we were able to take advantage of that boom. And by April and May for Mother's Day, we were doing $3 to $4 million months. And we ended up scaling to $27 million that year in 2020. It was an incredible growth story, and a lot of it was right place, right time. So, for instance, during COVID, Walmart was shut down, Target was shut down. It was Mother's Day. You could not buy gifts elsewhere. And luckily I had a very commoditized product, so I could go to any printer all around the US and they could say, hey, could you print this product for me? And even if they weren't large, they could do it. So we didn't have a lot of supply chain issues a lot of people had. And also, people were stuck in their houses during COVID and they found out they didn't have anything on their walls. I'm like, well, we sell a solution to that. We sell something you can put on your walls, right? So we had a lot of market timing going for us. And we also had a lot of consistent product drops. We were dropping something incredible like 15 to 20 products a week, which in the print on demand game is even faster print on demand. It's even faster for normal brands that are dropping products once a quarter, maybe once a month. So we had a incredible amount of energy going in the right direction.
That's awesome. And so you said right place, right time. So yes, part of it's luck, but you also create your own luck. I assume you're probably working 60 to 80 hours a week.
Yeah, I mean, a typical day for me is I'll wake up around like 6:30. I'll go on a walk with my wife for 2 miles, typically 35 minutes, right around here, either in Victoria Park or at the beach. and then I'll have breakfast, and then I'm working at probably like 8 a.m., maybe 8:30, depending upon how much more time I spend with my wife in the morning. And then I'm working until probably 8 p.m., and then I'm reading a book for an hour to an hour and a half. And if I'm lucky, I'm like watching a Netflix show with my wife and just talking, and then I go to bed. And that's Monday through Friday. And then the weekends, I'm probably working. I've cut down a lot of the weekends, but I'm probably working anywhere from 2 to 4 hours Saturday, Sunday. So, but definitely cut down from what I used to do on the weekends. Where I had no life.
Yeah, no, I love it. I mean, that's the hustle mindset, and that's really what you have to do if you want to build your own business and you want it to take off. So I want to give some actual insights to anyone that's listening.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of tech stacks were you using?
So Shopify was our main tech stack. Shopify is amazing. Invested in Shopify stock, not in Shopify itself. That'd be amazing. Highly recommend stock. And everything was built around that. We also used Orderdesk, which is a order management system that I highly recommend. The challenge with print on demand and even drop shipping, if you have a store that has multiple product and those product coming from locations, is order management, and specifically with print on demand, like how to send designs to all these different stores. Orderdesk is like a intermediary between Shopify and your manufacturers that holds all of your orders. So you can insert custom designs and then send it to a manufacturer. And you can have another order, you insert a separate design, but you send it to B manufacturer. And it has all that data and is easily able to get it to your manufacturers very, very quickly in an automated fashion. Shopify is typically first for brands that have like 1 or maybe 2 fulfillment centers that are their own, where they control it. So Orderdesk is a really amazing software. We also use another software called Customly that I highly recommend if you're doing anything personalized. And Customly will do 2 things. Number 1, Customly will allow the user on your website to view a live preview of any image that you want to customize. So for instance, I have this Yeti here. It says Killian, this is Kyle, and Julian, this is me and my wife. We have a nickname. And using Customly as a user on a website to be able to type in K and see the K on this thing and the Y and see it on this thing. So really good from a conversion perspective, so customers can actually see what they're trying to purchase. But the second thing it does is probably even more important, in that it will automatically create this design upon order and send it to you Orderdesk, so that your design team then is just QAing a lot of the orders and not really manually creating a lot of those designs. So it'll automate. It automates probably about 80% of our design process right now. And software isn't perfect. There's still times where we have to edit those orders, and we have a lot of custom orders as well. But like, I remember we didn't use to QA every order, and then I had one incident that just kind of like threw me off the wall, where someone ordered a canvas and they put parentheses PAW, like paw, and they expected us to like take that out and put a paw of an animal in there, and I'm like, there's no way like an AI could even figure that out. I have to have like a human to like look at these things. So they end up queuing 100% of the designs and then editing anything that doesn't make sense, and they catch a lot of like random mistakes like that because people aren't perfect. So.
And you said design team.
Yeah.
Now, what do you mean by that?
So we have it's called an order management team right now, but they handle all of our designs. So they will QA every single design that comes in, because all of our products are personalized with Family Gifts Co. And they'll also create any designs that are custom or that need to be re-edited. So it's basically QA and then design in Photoshop or some sort of Adobe product, depending upon what type of design it is, for any of our personalized orders.
Okay. So as you know, I dabble in e-commerce too, but I can never find the right niche to kind of take off.
Yeah.
But I remember looking at you when you were doing your e-commerce, and one of the things you did that was really fascinating to me was your ability to cross-sell and upsell, and how I forget the name, but some kind of hook that you mentioned.
Yeah, so we used to use one-click upsell, which was a phenomenal product that unfortunately was deprecated because Shopify wanted more control over the checkout. And Cart Hook is technically still available as a native Shopify app. However, it's a fraction of what it used to be, and not very great anymore, in my opinion. But nonetheless, we still use it on our main store, that we don't use funnels for. And we sell a lot of digital products as an upsell. The challenge with print on demand and upsell products is that anything that you're trying to cross-sell needs to have the same design or a similar design, or customers want a completely opposite design. So if someone comes to my store and they have this thing that says Killian on it, and I say, hey, I'm going to sell you a mug for half off It also says Killian on it. Someone might buy it, but then they're going to email me and they say, hey, I want something different on the mug. And it creates a customer service nightmare. So upselling physical products for us really created not a fun customer service experience, and probably not a good experience for our customers either. So we started selling a lot of digital products as upsells. One of those being a high resolution digital copy of what the customer has already ordered from us. Meaning they would purchase a canvas and it'd be a beautiful canvas with all this custom stuff on it. And then I'm going to say, hey, I'm going to send you a PDF or a PNG file of that so you can have it forever and you can print it on whenever you want for $10, right? And for us, that's 100% margin because we literally already created it and we're just selling them the design rights. And then the second one is a shipping protection type product. You can't call it shipping insurance because insurance is a regulated product.
Sure.
We call it shipping protection, and it's actually a bundled product. And I've never seen anyone do this either. So it's shipping protection. So anytime between when the customer orders and when it's delivered, if it's lost in the mail, which happens, we ship mostly via UPS, so not that often, but it does happen. And we also include a forever warranty on it. If the canvas ever breaks for whatever reason, we'll replace it, no questions asked. And then we also have what's called VIP customer service on there. Most people who are purchasing our gifts, it's like time sensitive, so they want to be able to access customer service very quickly. And this is a way for them to do it. And we sell that for $10 as well, and we get a 15 to 20% take rate on it on post-purchase. And the reality of the situation is if somebody loses their product between, or if UPS loses somebody's product, like I'm going to refund that or ship them out as quickly as possible anyway so that my customers have a good experience. So like I would be doing that anyway for the first item. The second one was forever guarantee. Like no one's gonna break their canvas. It's gonna stay in your wall for life, right? Maybe unless you move. So we don't, that's pretty much 100% margin. And then customer service, we literally just use a tag in Gorgeous, which is customer service software where it's like if somebody's a VIP, we just tag them as a VIP, and then we answer their stuff first. So all those are pretty much 100% margin for us, and we get an extra, $2 to $3 per customer that purchases from us on the store. So digital products are extremely impactful.
So for the average person out there who wants to start their own e-commerce company, let's say they want to do a print on demand, how would they go about finding different vendors to use? How did you find your vendors and how did you select them?
Gotcha, man. So great question. So you can just Google it now. There's a lot of print-on-demand vendors that are out there. Guden is a big one that most people probably know. Custom Cat was a big one that we used to use. What we've done now is we developed our own network of mostly smaller private printers that care about us more and will give us better pricing and better delivery options. But like there's a ton of large print-on-demand vendors out there. But the challenge with starting new is like your pricing is not going to be great. And then also the SLAs that they're going to give to somebody to be like me, like the turnaround times for someone who's high volume, and what they'll guarantee is going to be much better for someone like me as well. But like, again, Guden, Custom Cat, those are two large ones I'd recommend. We currently use one called Print Dropper, which has been a phenomenal partner to us, as well as another one called Colorway on Demand, and both of those manufacturers and distributors are true partners to us, and we're really grateful for those relationships.
And if I can go back, what does SLA stand for?
Service level agreements. So an SLA is just an agreement where, hey, we agree that like 99% of our orders will be shipped out within 3 to 5 days or whatever that agreed upon amount is. Or another SLA would be they will respond to our customer service reps within 24 hours or 8 hours or whatever the agreed upon terms are. So it's just a way to have a better relationship with your partner that's in a contract.
Okay. And so in this industry, marketing, content creation, I feel is a must. Mm-hmm. What are some bare bones things that you would recommend someone to do when they're getting started?
And e-commerce?
Yeah,
or
e-commerce.
From a marketing content perspective. So if you're just getting started, the most important thing for you to find in print on demand, specifically, if you want to go that way, is so there's like traditionally called product market fit, where you're trying to find a product that fits the market. With print on demand, it's design market fit. So what market are you trying to market to, and what design will work really well for them? So for instance, with Family Gifts Co., families are the niche that we focus on. So all of our content is geared towards families. All of our campuses are geared towards families. Everything is very family related, typically with a customer avatar of a female who's 45 to 55-year-old woman that lives probably outside of a metropolitan area has 3 or 4 kids and really loves their family, right? So our designers, and that was me when we started off, it's like, okay, what are the designs that are selling for these types of people? So we go onto Etsy, you go onto Amazon, you go onto Facebook and the ad spy tools and see what's trending for those types of products, and then think, okay, how can we make this product better or this design better, and then try and test it through paid ads on Facebook. And you're gonna have some cash to spend with Facebook, and it's much more difficult now to start off with Facebook than it was when I started off, certainly. But ultimately, it's finding designs that work for your target market and then testing a lot. And I mean like testing 30 to 40 designs, understanding that probably all of them, 99% of them are going to fail, and you're going to find one that's going to work really well, and it's going to be a drag and very not fun until you find that design that hits. Like I went through it myself, and it's depressing, to be frank. But like when you do find that design, when you do find that product, you triple down, you 100x on it, right? And then you try to iterate off it to make better designs.
So if you're in that shoe position where you're starting off, how much money would you recommend putting into Facebook ads to start at a bare minimum?
That's a great question. I would budget somewhere between probably $15,000 to $30,000 total, and that would be for labor as well as for designs. You could go a very long stretch spending a couple $100s a day on Facebook with new designs and not hit it. You might break even on some things, but I would say, I started with actually much less. Like this business was like $5,000 or $7,000 or something, but different environment, different Facebook environment, different macro environment. But you need to be prepared to spend a decent amount with Facebook to really get that spend, and mostly view it as like learning.
Okay.
You're investing in your education of what the market likes and what the market doesn't like. And it's that rapid testing that's going to get you the quickest results and the most education.
Now, did you use a lot of Google display ads and just Google pay-per-click?
Great question. So when you're starting off, you want to keep it very simple. Like all of our ads were just on Facebook, and they were in mobile one-to-one, meaning anything that's on mobile Facebook ad screen.
Okay.
You want to keep any test you're doing, you want to limit what the other options could be. So if I know that I'm only advertising this thing on one type of ad product, which is Facebook mobile, and this thing works, I'm limiting the other variables that can make the test work or not work, right? So for A/B testing, like I want to test one thing. Does the design work here? And then I can expand to other places. I wouldn't go outside of that or like Facebook mobile until you have a design that works and you're trying to scale it either laterally or horizontally.
Okay, so you'd recommend just sticking to one thing, get it done right, perfect it, and then once you start scaling it and you're doing well, start looking at other kind of venues.
Exactly. And I would say that's true generally in digital marketing as well. One of the big challenges that happens when brands come to Weekend Digital, which is a growth equity partner company that I'm a partner in, is that they'll be trying to do 1,000 different things. And that could be they're trying to market on 1,000 different ad platforms, like they're doing it $2 million a year, and they're on TikTok, they're on Facebook, they're on Google, they're on Pinterest. And it's like, bro, you're never going to be good at all those things as a startup. Like focus on one that you can scale really well. And then when it makes sense and you've mastered that, add those other things. The same thing with retail. Like a lot of small brands think, oh, D2C is getting expensive, let's go retail. And it's like, well, that's literally the exact opposite skill set of what it takes to be good at D2C. If you're selling retail, you need to be good at lead generation, and you need to be good at sales because you're selling corporations. If you're D2C, you need to be good at marketing, and you need to be good at landing pages, and you need to be good at product, right? So really focusing and not having like shiny object syndrome is probably one of the biggest things that I always preach, because I am a recovering shiny object syndrome person.
Yeah. So I want to briefly just talk about landing pages, and then I think we'll segue into Weekend. So, let's say I'm starting off, I have a landing page. What aspect should I really focus on? If you kind of want to go into detail there.
Yeah, so great question. What aspect should you focus on when you're building a landing page? And the strategy that goes into the landing page, in my opinion, is the most important part. Like, what is the offer that we're trying to persuade our audience with? Who is our audience? Is it even the right audience? Does the audience have a good long-term value for our product, or a good cost per acquisition for our product? So starting strategically is probably the most important part. And then after that, it's like, okay, what is our offer? What is the headline that's going to be from the offer? Because those are the main impactful drivers of conversion on your website, it's not the most, it's not like 90% of the landing page. It's like what's the first thing people see, and what's the strategy behind it. So like our team spends most of their time when they're building landing pages. We're onboarding new products or new clients and strategy, and I think that most of the work should really be done there, and you can spend much less time on the rest of the landing page.
Okay,
That makes sense.
that's good to know. So, Weekend Digital, what's the story behind there, and how long have you been a part of it?
Yeah, man. So I've been with Family Gifts Co. since that was 2019, and then 2020 and 2021. And then mid 2021, I met Tom Patterson, who's now my business partner in two ventures, Weekend Digital and Weekend Investments. And we became business partners in 2021 because at the time I had shiny object syndrome with Family Gifts Co. and I was looking to acquire other brands. My main problem with that was lead gen and finding great brands. And I came across Tom, and he had this agency at the time called Weekend Digital. And he's like, all I do is talk to great brands every day. I'm like, oh my God, like if I put like my experience behind the lead gen that you have, like we could create something great. So we created Weekend Investments in September of 2021. We did minority acquisitions and D2C brands, typically anywhere from $5 to $30 million a year in revenue. And we got a few of those under our belt very quickly that I would call were learning experiences. And now that, so I'm still doing that. But then in January of 2022, Tom asked me to come on and be COO of Weekend Digital, and I declined it. I did not want to be COO of anything. I'd been mostly CEO in past positions, and I didn't really want to get into the nitty-gritty of any sort of operations. And he's a very effective communicator and salesperson, and eventually sold me on it. And I came on board actually January 1st of 2022, because he's been convincing me since we started Weekend Investments as COO. And you know, I look back on it, it's probably one of the best decisions that I ever made, because now when you have an e-commerce brand, I almost think of it like a fake business. And what I mean by that is like you can be doing 10 million in revenue and have like 3 or 4 employees. If you're an agency doing 10 million in revenue, you have 50 to maybe even on the high end 100 employees. And it's all about management of people and helping people to optimize themselves and have a better performance. So to me, that's where like the real long-term skill is like how can you effectively manage people and help their performance and make them better people and help them think better and make better decisions for the company. And I think that now that I have the e-commerce side as well as the operational side with Weekends, that it gives me an entirely different perspective than most people have.
Yeah, so I'm looking at a poll you did, and you asked, how much time do you invest in coaching your team members on a weekly basis? And it's shocking to see that almost 90% of people said they invest 0 to 5 hours, probably closer to 0, and you might have less than 1% saying 15 hours plus, and so it just kind of goes into detail about the importance of coaching.
Yeah, and this is a thing that I learned from experience. Like when I had Family Gifts Co., you know, when we first started off, I was doing some coaching and training, and then I got into acquisition mode, and I completely got off of coaching and training, which caused some issues later down the line. But with Weekend, when I started in 2022 was a very difficult year for anybody in the digital marketing space, for anybody in e-commerce, and we were no exception for that. And I came into a business that wasn't very optimized, had like 130 employees, no systems and processes whatsoever, which is why I was brought in to bring some structure. And we ended up cutting down by the end of 22 to around 40 employees. Now, we're actually now pretty much right around that same headcount and doing more revenue than we were in 2022, which just shows you the waste that we had in terms of personnel and in terms of like a lack of processes. But now when I'm looking at the business, it's every day it's like, how can I coach people to think better and to optimize themselves? So I literally, all of our service line leaders, so for paid media as a service line, email as a service line, creative as a service line, spend 30 minutes every single day with each one of those leaders, coaching them on how to better themselves and how to better the company and how to continually improve. And I think that to me, the biggest impact of anything that I've done with any brand really, or any company that I've ever worked with, is like giving that individual time, training people and coaching people. And people will look at me, they're like, 30 minutes a day with somebody, like who's a manager. I'm like, dude, they're a manager of your company. They literally make decisions for you when you're not there. What could be a better use of your time than teaching them how to think?
Yeah, I 100% agree. So, I've read into a lot of your stuff, and you talk about lean a lot, and I assume that's what you mean. Lean is a strategy where you just kind of, I'll let you go into it.
Yeah. So last October, so right a little bit less than a year ago, I got into what's called lean, and a lot of people from the manufacturing area know lean. Lean was created by Toyota. It started as the Toyota Production System (TPS), and then Americans ended up calling it lean. And we thought it was this manufacturing thing because Toyota, who happens to manufacture cars, which is an incredibly complex thing to do, by the way, happened to use TPS or lean. But there's a lot of applications for lean in the service industry, in the healthcare industry, and in pretty much any other industry as well. And the way that I would define lean is really about thinking about how to create value for your end customer, and always having them in mind, and how to serve them through continuous improvement, and then trying to remove waste in the organization. So it's how can I best serve my customer in the way that they want, not the way that I think that they want, and then how can I optimize my team from a both efficiency and an effectiveness standpoint to make that goal happen. And when we're thinking about lean from a manufacturing standpoint, I think it really degrades it because that means it's just this manufacturing thing. But really, if you apply lean to all areas of the organization, it actually becomes strategical and strategy. And what I mean by that is like if you are an email agency, for instance, and you're able to decrease your lead time, meaning the time that it takes for you to deliver an email from the time the customer requests it to the time that it's delivered, from 19 to 20 days, which is pretty typical with a lot of emails, agencies will batch all their production, to 3 days, you just decrease the lead time like 90% or 80%. And like, what kind of strategic advantages does that have? Or what kind of strategic advantage would it have if you were to decrease your time to hire someone from 1 month or 2 months, which is pretty consistent through most agencies, to 2 to 3 weeks?
And would you say there's a big correlation between the coaching that you've done and making the companies lean?
Yeah, so most of the coaching that I've been doing is based on lean principles and lean fundamentals. The first 6 months of the coaching is all about lean and how to apply lean to the individual service lines, understanding waste, understanding how to value stream map, understanding flow and tact time, and all these lean principles that are very counterintuitive, frankly, and seem like they wouldn't work until you try it and you're like blown away by it.
So what book would you recommend if I wanted to start learning about lean and apply it to my company?
Okay, so I'll give you 2 different answers. So number one, my favorite lean book so far is a book called Lean Turnaround by Art Byrne. He was a CEO of a company called Wiremold that he brought from a $30 million valuation to something like a $700 million valuation in 10 years. If you're a CEO of a company, I would highly recommend that one. If you're just trying to get into lean and understand lean, the best primer is called Lean Thinking by James Womack. It was the seminal work for lean that really brought it into mainstream. And both of those will literally flip your reality of how you think about production and how you think about strategy and lean.
And I wanted to dive more into lean. I feel a lot of people may not grasp the concept, so if we can kind of dumb it down a little bit.
Yeah, sure. So I think there's again, this gross misunderstanding because lean started at Toyota and Toyota manufactures automobiles that it's a manufacturing thing, but it really is very strategic in nature. And I'll give you an example of that. So one of the core tenets of lean is continuous improvement, and something that we've implemented at Weekend is called daily PDCAs. And with daily PDCAs, we train everybody in the organization to make one improvement every single day and to put it into ClickUp, which is our project management tool, and then work with the manager to make that thing a standard. So effectively what we're doing is we are having everyone in the organization literally daily think about continuous improvement, how to improve their position, how to improve their processes, how to improve themselves as a person and make themselves more valuable on the market or to our organization. And when you think about like most organizations, they'll create a standard or an SOP, and that's the way you're going to be doing things forever. And that does not help growth of the organization. It doesn't help growth of the people. When you have a strategy like lean and you focus on continuous improvement and you're improving the organization every day, you are that much ahead of your competition, right? Like very few organizations out there actually have a program like that. And most organizations are going to have a CEO or someone who's at the top who's making all the decisions that is bottlenecking the organization and not trusting people below them to make better decisions and improvements in the company.
So empower your employees, allow them to make their mistakes, and let them learn from it and let them evolve and grow, so you don't have to do it all from the top.
Exactly, and a lot of it is from a coaching mindset as well. Coaching them on, hey, what if we were to do it this way? Understanding these lean principles, how could we change this current process? And then letting them give you the answer versus you telling it to them, because people don't learn when you give them the answer.
And I assume culture is very important in this too, because if you don't install a good, positive corporate culture, then people are probably afraid to make mistakes and they may not come to you when the time calls for it.
Yeah, exactly. One of the core tenets of lean is respect for people. And what is meant by that is respect to challenger people to become better, respect that they have the capacity and the ability, regardless of where they're at in your organization, whether they're a frontline team member or somebody who's in management, to make great decisions and to have good ideas with the appropriate coaching on how to be creative and how to think properly. So without a culture change and without people literally changing how they think in your organization, lean will not work. And frankly, your business won't grow at its maximum capacity either.
And you mentioned great decisions. I know a lot of companies make really poor decisions when it comes to cash flows.
Yeah.
I want to spend some time just talking on how to manage your cash flows, and so you don't get into this, I guess, a bottleneck and you need to start finding funding.
Yeah, great question. So one of the first things that we do when we bring on either an internal brand with Weekend or someone maybe we're helping them with growth marketing is a cash flow training. And I have a question for you, Joe. What do you think that the number one KPI is that most businesses, or that you should look at for finance? What's the number one finance KPI?
Cash flow.
Would you say that if we didn't just talk about cash flow?
Me, yes, only because of my background in several businesses.
Okay.
But I would say revenue is what most people would say.
Okay. Actually, most people would say profit.
Profit.
Right? Because profit's the bottom line. Profit's what you exit your business for, some sort of profit, EBITDA multiple, right? Profit is the lifeblood of a business, and all that's true. However, even profitable businesses go bankrupt because they can't pay their bills. And that's because they don't have proper cash flow. And most organizations will have a very warped perception of cash flow and profit. And what I mean by that is they will, for example, if you're an e-commerce brand, this is very typical. You turn inventory 3 or 4 times a year, and in order to get better rates with your manufacturer, you increase the inventory buy. So you say, instead of purchasing 1,000 units, I will purchase 2,000 units, but I will save 5%. So effectively what you've done there is you've decreased your cash flow by 50% in exchange for 5% profit, which is a very dumb business decision in my eyes. But people do that every single day in e-commerce and in retail and in other businesses because they view profit as the number one KPI, when it's really like, what's the opportunity cost of that cash flow that I just took out of my bank account and either put onto my balance sheet as inventory, or I put into the bank account of somebody in China or somebody in Mexico who's manufacturing my goods. And when you view it from that perspective, it completely changes the way you think and the way you have a purchasing strategy. Like we like to come in and, again, typically 3 to 4 times is the number for inventory turns, meaning you're turning inventory 3 to 4 times a year. If you could double that in 1 to 2 years, you just put 50% cash flow from that inventory back into your business that you can invest in other assets, you can invest in other people, you could, God forbid, take it just distribution if you wanted to. But again, this warped perception of profit versus cash flow is what gets a lot of e-commerce brands into trouble. And we saw this specifically over the last year or two. Like Lululemon, for the first time in history over this last year, has off-season sales because they ordered too much inventory, and now they have to discount it. Never happened before in their history, and now they're doing it, right? And this is a common theme among a lot of the brands that we see coming in for audits, is that they purchase too much inventory, they don't have the cash flow, and now they can't sustain their businesses even though they might be profitable.
So to touch on a common mistake that some people do in regards to purchasing, I know you hate credit cards and points, and I love to travel. I want to be known, and I love my points, so I use my credit cards on purchasing certain items.
Yes.
So tell us why you don't use credit cards and why you recommend people don't as well.
Okay, it's not that I don't use credit cards, because we do use credit cards, and it's not that I don't recommend credit cards, because I do recommend credit cards, but I recommend a very specific type of credit card, and that credit card is the credit card that will give you the most cash flow, right? So a typical credit card will be, most people use for business is an Amex Platinum. You're going to get maybe 2% cash back. And if you look at that 2% cash back over a year, and you analyze that return, it's a 24% return on your investment. right? You spend $100,000, you're going to get $2,000 back per month times 12 months, 24%. 24% is your hurdle rate that you have to beat then in order for an investment to make sense. What I recommend is getting a net 60 card, and those are like Parker or Rowe. There's a couple more that are coming out. Brex used to have that 90. They realized that was a bad decision, so they don't do that anymore. Ampla now has a net 60 card, and there's a couple other banks that are coming out with them for e-commerce. But the way that I view this is, okay, say you're spending $100,000 a month and you're going to get $24,000 at the end of the year in points. Okay, what if instead of giving you $24,000 every month, or $2,000 every month, ending in $24,000, I gave you $100,000 in your bank account? What could you invest that $100,000 in as a fast-growing business? Could you make more than $24,000 on that $100,000?
I could.
Right, and that's the disconnect between most people. And it was funny. I actually had a Twitter nice fight. It's not a fight. It's like a duel. back and forth with the owner of Cuts Clothing. And they spend, I don't know, $5-10 million a month on their ads. They're a 9-figure brand. And the guy was like, well, I bought an apartment complex with all my points. And I'm like, yeah, but what you're failing to understand is what if I gave you $10 million cash? What could you invest in with that $10 million cash in terms of assets or people in your business? Would it be more than the $800,000 complex that you bought? Yes. If you're a good, 24% is an incredibly low hurdle rate for a fast-growing brand, fast-growing company. You should be aiming for 50 to 100% return on IRR, internal rate of return.
So I'm looking at a picture of the owner of Cuts, and he is wearing a suit. So I can see why you guys don't get along.
No, it was a random Twitter exchange, and I wouldn't say I don't get along with him.
Yeah.
But we just disagree on that specific point.
So I wanted to do a little fun game. Let's say I am starting an e-commerce company.
Yeah.
I'm looking at one of your quotes, and if you are sourcing your products from China, you are overpaying by 200 to 300%. You don't even know it.
Yeah.
And just my hypothetical company is, I want to make bamboo socks. Where should I go?
So when we're looking at product now, the closer to fulfillment, the closer to the United States you can get, the better. And the reason is because even though you might be paying more on a per unit basis, the whole cost of the system is going to be lower. What I mean by that is you can test faster from the United States when you have production in the US. So there's an opportunity cost. A lot of this is opportunity cost. There's an opportunity cost of your time to learn when you have 2 to 3 month delivery times from China that you're losing by manufacturing in China. When you manufacture from China, you're buying in large batches, typically 3 months, 3 months worth, because you want to keep your shipping cost low relative to the price of the product you purchased. Well, now you have that carry cost of that inventory on your balance sheet that you can invest elsewhere. Whereas if you're buying in the United States or say Mexico, you can produce something and ship it to here in 24 to 48 hours by train or by truck, right? Versus 6 to 8 weeks on a boat where your cash flow is tied up. Again, this all goes back to cash flow.
Sure.
The other thing is, what if one of those products from China is defective? Or a lot of them. We have a company right now that we're working with. They got a 2,000 product batch from China. Every single product defective. $200,000 to $300,000 of cash flow. You can't sell a product. It's effectively stalled their company, and they might go bankrupt because of that. And that happens. So there's a lot of these hidden costs when you're dealing with manufacturers from China. There's quality issues as well. And China's gotten much better from a quality perspective. But from our perspective, you lose a lot of the speed to market. You have better cash flow positions the closer you are to the United States if you're shipping and selling in the United States.
So I remember when I was ordering products from China, it was a known fact that the Chinese, they love to go ahead and just make little tweaks on the products every couple months to save a penny here, penny there in their own pockets. And when you start doing quality control, you're like, why did you change the thread count on this? Why did you do this little thing? Why are you using this sticker versus that sticker? And it drove me nuts.
Yeah. And look, that could still happen in Mexico. That could still happen in the United States. But I think the closer it is, the more control you have over that. You could fly to Mexico relatively quickly, or drive there, God forbid, if you're in California or in Texas or somewhere central. But to get to China is incredibly difficult and long, and you don't probably speak Chinese. So
no, I don't.
And not that all of our companies have their goods manufactured here or even in Mexico. Some of them are in China, but as hard as we can, we try to get it either near shore or in the U.S.
Now, for you to find your clients, I assume you find a decent amount on Twitter. Is that correct?
So I was really heavy on Twitter last year, and we actually did get a few clients that are totaling probably $1 million ARR this year. The challenge with Twitter, how I was doing it, is Twitter and content to be done properly really is like a 10-hour a week commitment. So I was spending 5 hours a week writing, and that was threads, and that was just general content, like tweets. And then I was spending 5 hours a week responding to people and being social on Twitter and creating conversations. And it's a really good LTV, return on investment. But we had so much shit happen in the end of 2022 with weekends and with Family Disco that, like, for me, I need to focus on the short term, which I try not to always do, but like when you need to, you need to. So great LTV on content, but you have to be able to do it consistently, and you have to really dedicate like a lot of time. And to me, it was okay, 10 hours coaching people versus 10 hours of content. We didn't really have a bringing the business problem. So I would rather optimize the business that we had, if that makes sense.
Sure. No, 100% it does. So let's just say, on Twitter, I think I have 26 followers.
Yeah.
You have about 15,000.
Yeah.
So if I wanted to get to 15,000, what are some actual steps that I could take?
I would join a Twitter mastermind, number one. I joined one with J.K. Molina and spent like $10,000 on it, and it was an incredibly great investment. It got me to where I'm at, so you can learn. So invest in that education. But the long and short of it is find a customer avatar that you can sell stuff to or connect with if you're selling a service, and create great content every single day. And what I mean by that is, if you're on Twitter, you need to be creating 3 tweets a day plus 1 to 2 threads a week with great content that's specific to your target demographic or target avatar that they resonate with and will like. If you go general on Twitter with no following, you're going to fail because nobody cares about you, and you don't have a consistent message for someone to grab onto.
So niche specific, you'd recommend?
100%.
Okay. One thing about threads too, if you write a long enough thread, you could also turn it into a blog post and use it for other kind of content as well.
Yeah, so there's a lot of cross-pollination amongst content. You can write a great LinkedIn post, and if that works, then you can create a long-form email on it. And if that works, you can create a blog on it. And there's all these different strategies about how to do that, which ultimately are going to depend upon like what's your main platform, what are your goals with that platform, what are you trying to achieve? Do you have the time to do those other platforms? But yes, anything that you write on one platform or you record on this platform could be great content, and that really helps with like writer burnout, because it's incredibly difficult to come up with new content every single, like incredibly difficult to. You will have writer's block starting off if you've never written before, probably 80% of the time, and it's hard to write, but then you force yourself into the habit of it, and then you do it every day, and it becomes like you're going to the gym every day, and you like can't live without it. Unfortunately, I had to stop again like at the beginning of this year, but definitely once we're entirely repositioned and maybe even acquired a couple more companies, I really plan on getting back into the LTV game on Twitter.
So what I'm hearing is be consistent and don't do too much because you don't want to do burnout, and find something that you enjoy doing.
Yes, great summation.
Okay, well, perfect. That's about all the time we have for today. And say thank you for coming on.
Yeah,
it's always a pleasure. And until next time.